Thanks, folks. On a fairly average day in Sydney, by the looks of things. It's good for financial literacy, though, to make people concentrate on their budget. They can't go sailing. So there you go. I got some fellow sailors in the room. Now, look, I think very quickly, the first issue I need to really just mention very quickly is the thing you're all thinking is why. And for a decade now, along with Peter Kell, who's been on the financial literacy board with me over the last decade, and is actually a friend stretching way back into the dim dark days of ASIC when you and I used to compare notes about scams and crooks and fraud. I think we were chasing a particular scamster around who was doing everything from flogging. You know the old days when you'd fly to Queensland for $20 a week and own yourself a wonderful Queensland property? So it was a variety of gentlemen. We were both jointly very interested. And he's still around here, that'll be right. No, a good crook never goes away. Now, why? This is really important because journalists say to me all the time, why have we now got a situation where the Australian government, and Bernie Ripoll does a fantastic job here, by the way, why is the Australian government saying financial literacy is important? Now, even the opposition agree on this one, by the way. Why? Because why have 42 countries around the world joined in the OECD pushing financial literacy hard? Russia at the moment is making an absolutely major push into financial literacy and following the Australian principles. Australia is seen, fair enough to say, Peter, as an absolute world leader in this area. And everyone thinks, well, that all sounds great, but why? And I'm often challenged by that by journalists as to, well, what happened to mum and dad? What happened to learning at home? Why? Why is it any different? And the point I'd make to you is that it isn't the way it was. For example, I'm 57. When I came down from the country to go to university in Sydney in 1974, the system required me to be financially literate. And the reason for that is very simple. For those of you around about my age, what happened on Friday night at first year university at the pub when you ran out of money? What happened? You went home. And youngsters, Financial Review journalists love saying to me, why didn't you pull out your ATM card? ATMs didn't exist. Now this really shocks 30-year-olds. ATMs didn't exist in 1974. And he said, okay, then why'd you just whack your credit card on the bar? And as we all know so well, and we can afford to laugh, credit cards didn't exist apart from diners and Amex, and they weren't in the habit of giving them to an 18-year-old uni student earning $33 a week pulling beers at the Regent Hotel and Anzac Parade. So the simple reality is my folks would pay my uni college fees and would give me a bit of an allowance, spending money, and I would earn my $33 a week at the pub pulling beers 2 nights. And basically my life ran around that cash. It was not me being clever. I needed no skills. I could not spend money I did not have. If you like, I couldn't really get into trouble. Yes, I ran short of money a few times, reverse charge mum and dad, and they generally would help out a little bit. But it wasn't that dramatic. It really wasn't build up of the sort of credit card debt we see in kids' cars today. So the challenge I put in front of you is this is not some nice to do. This is not some airy-fairy subject matter. And the reason governments around the world and the OECD is pushing so hard in this area is the world has changed. Money is now completely invisible. Never in human history could you spend, regardless of your income, could you spend large amounts of money you did not earn as yet. Maybe you'll earn it in the future, and right now you don't possess. Funnily enough, if we want to find genuine financial illiteracy, we go to wealthy Australian families. And for example, I plead guilty. Had a recent little session with my 3 kids. In fact, today is an exciting financial day. My youngest finishes school today, of 3 kids. But recently we had a little chat about why in our family we had $5,000 a year on our little tags on our car windows. And the kids also, I said to the kids, what's it cost to cross the bridge? Didn't know. They're 25, 23 and 18. One's an analyst at Deutsche Bank, one's a lawyer, and one's about to start uni. You'd kind of think they'd know. No idea what it cost. And I said, why don't you know? And they said, well, Dad, the bloody plastic thing on the window just beeps. How do we know we're spending money? And anyway, we're not spending money. And I said, what do you mean you're not spending money? And they said, oh, you've forgotten, Dad, it's linked to your credit card. Now, who's the financial literacy Dumbo in this family? The challenge for Macquarie University, the challenge for the role of this chair, the challenge for government, the challenge for ASIC is that we're doing extremely well in improving the awareness of being good with money. We see the anecdotal information. We see for the last 2 New Year's Eves, for example, that I will be better with money this year was, I am advised, the second most made resolution on New Year's Eve. The only thing that frightens me is the number one is I will lose weight. And as a community, we may not be doing too well there either. So basically what I'm fascinated about is the genuine challenge. This is not a soft subject matter area. Financial literacy is going to be fundamental to government policy. And the two primary drivers around that, bluntly, the Australian population is yet to really see the invisible money issue and understand the importance of financial literacy. But the Australian population and the global population, particularly in first world countries where you're less worried about a roof over your head tonight. But the real challenge is Australians have yet to come to a recognition about life extension. Now, Tim, can I pick on you for a moment? Tim Besley's, I've known Tim since his days as chairman of the Commonwealth Bank. Tim, as we were having a bit of a catch-up, our kids went to school together, by the way. And Tim, I think you said, can I mention your age? Now, 85, and you've just, what's your new chairman role?
The New South Wales Transport Advisory Board.
New South Wales Transport Advisory Board. Now, I think, you can either say Tim is a genetic miracle. I will argue, maybe he is. I will argue, though, that is what the future looks like. I was with a group of pensioners in Adelaide a while back. I think it's the sort of thing, Bernie, you didn't want to do. They all felt that age pension should be increased dramatically. And they brought their budgets and PowerPoint presentations and gave very impressive presentations on why you really struggle to live on an age pension. And I said, I get it. And I asked, when did the pension system start? And they didn't know. And I said, look, it was debated in 1906 and 7. It was started in 1908. And why do you think our forebears in 1908 chose a male retirement age to get a pension of 65? And they sort of said, we know where this is going, we don't like it at all. And they said, we know men probably died at 65. Anyone care to tell me what age the average male lived to in 1908? 54. 54. So our forebears chose a date of a pensionable retirement age 11 years after your average date of death, because it was meant to be a genuine safety net. Now, I'm not saying the rights or wrongs. This is Bernie's area. This is not what a chair of financial literacy is interested in. But it just seems to me that if we've been given a gift of some quarter century of life in 105 years, we are going to have to change. We are going to have to change our behaviour and our behaviour around money. Because if we're, in my generation, and thank heavens for the global financial crisis, you think I'm mad. You may recall just before the global financial crisis, I would have been about 50, I guess. My 50-year-olds, the common thing was, I'll retire at 55. Do you remember people talking about retirement at 55? Thank heavens that went away. How can we expect now, and if you go to websites that are even better than Money Smart, sorry Peter, I really like whenwillidie.com. And When Will I Die is a cracker. You'll need a recent set of blood tests. You load it up with all your blood enzymes and all that sort of stuff. My current one is 91 with an asterisk. And I thought the asterisk would be the disclaimer. And it was a disclaimer. It says, do not use 91 to plan your money, because 91 is only based on what we know about medicine today. If medicine improves, 91 is likely to be conservative. In other words, arguing I should plan for my money to go past that point in time. So we've got these really dramatic changes around life extension, and the other dramatic change is we have changed dramatically the way we live. Literally, when I started in this industry as a young analyst in 1979, the dream was very simple. Typically, a 65-year-old male would come in. I was far too junior. I'd be put in the back of the room to sort of, learn and take notes and listen. And in 1979, a 65-year-old male would turn up after 43 years with Westpac or whatever it might have been, a gold watch and $30,000. The wife was rarely in attendance, by the way. That's only 1979, not 1879 or 1779, just 1979. Do you know how long in 1979 a typical hard-working male executive, probably a smoker, exercise was not too big in those days, do you know how long that executive lived on average in retirement? 3 years and 2 months. So your money wasn't really a pressing issue. Widow, different point altogether. So basically the world has changed dramatically with life extension, and also we are living so much better. In 1979, the couples, when eventually we'd get to meet the wife, the dream was an overseas trip together, their first one together probably, and then the retirement dream was to garden. Now, if my wife said I'm gardening in retirement, I'd commit suicide as well. And like many Australians, I love my garden. I could watch The Gardener all day. And that is probably a good example of who we are now. My clients at IPAC take, as the previous generation did, who do wine appreciation courses at the local TAFE. My clients do that. They do wine appreciation in Italy. They do food courses, not at the local TAFE, in France. So we've changed. And we've got this, and this is better, okay? This is significantly better than it used to be. So we've got this world where we've got, on average, significant life extension, and we've got significantly, in my opinion, a better dream. And I think this is really exciting stuff. I love seeing what people like Tim are doing, Maurice Newman, who probably, I think this wouldn't have happened without Maurice's significant efforts. I remember when Maurice came to see me about 2 years ago to talk about how important this would be. I kind of had a sense of inevitability, Maurice. Very determined man, Mr. Newman, and I congratulate him for that fantastic career. So basically, all sorts of fascinating things are going on, but the point of the matter is we have changed fundamentally. So what do we do about it? Well, inside ASIC, inside government, there's kind of two parts to this, and one is regulation. Now, if you take the recent collapse of Banksia, for example, Peter, it's fair to say that you and I have been tearing our hair out for, 2 decades over estate mortgage, West Point, FinCorp, now Banksia and so on. And obviously, better regulation can help that. But at the end of the day, we cannot, through better regulation, and can regulation be done better? I'm sure Peter and Greg Medcraft would argue you can do things better. And Bernie, as Bernie, of course, obviously did the cabinet hearing on the storm fiasco, and I think that was a really telling issue as well. So basically, knowledge becomes a key part. The twin planks going forwards are regulation, but it's also education. You can have the best regulation in the world, but if humans still do not have a fundamental money safety barrier, and we do not have a fundamental safety barrier. And by that I mean, if I say to you the fastest way out of this building is to jump out of the window, you will say that is right, but it is stupid. Because it is clearly the fastest way to the bottom. We tend to do that with our money, unfortunately. We don't seem to have this fundamental understanding of what risk really looks like. So when I say to you, let's jump out the window, you don't even bother. You just go, well, that's so stupid, it's not worth talking about. But we do it because we have a natural framework of thousands of years of learning. This invisible money stuff is really brand new to humans, and we're struggling with it. We're struggling with longer life. We're struggling with what it means for aged care. We're struggling with, but how do we have this great longer life and all the things we want to do and pay for it? And it's very difficult in politics, Bernie, because many of the answers to this are no. And it's not a great vote winner. Now, the Paul Clitheroe electoral platform, which why I spend most of my life doing pro bono things like this these days, because clearly I wouldn't get elected to absolutely anything. But the Paul Clitheroe plan would be, look, basically, folks, in our community, we need a bit of a community conversation. It's about financial literacy. I think our total tax take, Bernie, is about $420 billion comes in the door of government. And, it worries me in the world of financial literacy, and this is where I think this is going to be so valuable, because if we can get individuals to focus on the fact we can only have what we can afford, at the end of the day, so be it as a community. And I'm going to be fascinated in a community conversation as we go forwards, that if 440 odd billion's coming in, how do we as a community want to spend it? And to me, it's a bit like our lifestyle. I suspect our solution to the changing world is I suspect most of us will work a little longer or maybe live a little less well. It could be bad for our boats and that sort of stuff. But basically, they're the choices we'll have. And I'm really interested in this community conversation to come. Bernie, you said to me a while ago you'd been nattering, this is not a private thing, you were just in a group thing. I think you were saying you'd been at a meeting with the New South Wales Health Department, and they were looking forwards that if we keep spending on health at the current rate, as to what did it mean, 130% of the New South Wales budget in 15 years or something ridiculous?
Total state revenues will be needed for the health budgets by 2026.
Okay, say that. So total state revenues will be needed for the health budget by 2026. Yeah. So it can't happen. So we're going to need to make some choices. So at a micro level, financial literacy, in my opinion, leads many of these choices, because I think what individuals are going to are rapidly working out on the back of the GFC is we can only have what we afford. But it's not that depressing, A lot of this stuff is really exciting. And so for the chair, some very early thoughts come to my mind, simply reading the piece of research that 1,000 kids at Macquarie Uni who are sitting this subject matter. And I wasn't so interested in the positive comments. I've shredded a credit card, paid it off, blah, blah, blah. There are two types of debt, good debt and bad debt. That's good. Information I didn't have before. Financial language interested me. If you're wondering why we're teaching financial literacy in English in the schooling system through ASIC, the reality there is that you think the problem with money is maths. It isn't. A lot of it is English. Our industry invents the most stupid words on the planet. Do you know what, real people, when I say to you, how about some salary sacrifice, you go, oh, fantastic, Paul, put in my pre-tax income, pay 15% tax, goes into super, comes out tax-free when I'm 60, I'll convert it to a pension fund, blah, 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 pay no tax at all, wonderful. That doesn't help my community problem, by the way, and we'll put that aside. But basically, in the real world, when we do focus groups on salary sacrifice, people's face fall to the floor. And people go, oh no, not salary sacrifice. Salary sacrifice to real Australians is when the boss says things are tough, your overtime's cut. Why would we call it salary sacrifice? Sacrifice is not a very clever word. So basically, a lot of the English makes no sense to the population, and that's why we need to learn the English of money. See, you all speak the English of money. You actually speak money, but you don't know you do. You do it as automatically as a second language. So some of these kids I was interested in, and there's zillions of comments here from these 1,000 kids. Now, why though? Why these comments? No changes. I was always a money-wise person. Things like things that flow through here that just fascinate me. A whole bunch of these kids have learnt heaps, but a whole bunch are saying, I was already good at money. I am really interested to know why some people are good with money and some aren't. I'm fascinated, and I walk into a law firm to do some partner programs around not buying tax schemes on June 30, and highly intelligent, highly paid people, and some are really dopey with money and some aren't, yet they're all really intelligent, hard-working people. It's fascinating. I don't know. So these are the challenges in front of us, and this is what I think the chair will play, I hope, a role in. What I'm excited about is where we were missing people, is we can find them in the schooling system. Where in the world of financial literacy we're most concerned is with these kids that we've worked so hard, who are going to be so much better with money in the next decade, then they start tertiary education, around about 70-odd% going to tertiary education. The continuation of that learning to 18 to 25-year-olds is the primary motivation for me to take on this piece of work. As my wife said, more pro bono work. Well done, Paul, you're a financial literacy idiot. But it is actually important. I do feel that Macquarie Uni's leadership here will be seen in other universities. I do think the fact that really excited me, 1,000 students enrolling in these courses in the early days tells us something. The feedback from these kids about, hey, I actually learnt something at university that not only has academic merit, it actually has given me significantly valuable skills into the future. So that's the excitement for me. So I think, though, overall, what I'm also really excited about is, can we crack this issue between the growing awareness of being better with money and actually getting behavioural change? And I think, Bernie, with a government viewpoint, that's just how do we actually get people to act on this stuff? How do we not have the next storm financial? Do we do it through regulation, or do we do it because people say, that looks too good to be true? And that, for me, would be a major achievement if we could just get people to say, here's the next estate mortgage coming along offering a high rate of return. If only we could get Australians to say, why are they offering more than a bank term deposit? What's the catch? What's the risk? And they, for me, are the challenges. So I'm really, and also I've got to tell you, I really, as you can probably tell on these, I do a fair bit of media, is I'm a frustrated school teacher. And so the chance to be part of chatting to these 1,000 kids and see financial literacy continue on into young adult life, it's the only way, I think, as a solution. This combination of regulation and education, in my opinion, is probably the one solution for the dramatic changes. An extra quarter century of life in 105, 110 years? Absolutely unbelievable. And higher living standards. And I can understand why some 42 governments around the world are supporting this push very strongly. So Bernie, congratulations to you and your government. I do think this is not just talk. I think it's a really important subject area. Peter Kell, the work done in ASIC, and Morris, I think the initiative you've shown and the drive in getting this up and running, fantastic. I'm looking forward to it, and anything we can do to be a bit better with our money. And if any of you have got the kids' plastic tags on the car windscreens, the road toll on your credit card, will you please go home and put it on your kids' credit cards? My kids now get a bus. It does work. Thank you.